How's it going, everybody? It is Noobski94 and welcome to my champion dissection series. Now, for those of you that have already seen one of my episodes, go ahead and click the link down below in the description. It's going to skip this intro for you guys. But for those of you that are new and haven't seen one of my episodes yet, I'm going to be explaining to you guys exactly what these videos are about. Now, I'm sure most of you guys understand that when you're playing against a champion you have never personally played before, you have a significant disadvantage in fighting them because you don't know their moves, you don't know what they're capable of doing. And I'm also sure most of you guys don't have enough IP or time to go purchase champions you aren't interested in playing for the sake of understanding what it is, what they're capable of doing, and how you could beat them. I made this series to teach you guys the entirety of champions, not just their abilities, but the synergy that their abilities have, exactly how they play, what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are, how you can counter a champion, and how you could play with a champion that you don't understand or you've never played before to your maximum potential. So without further ado, let's get started. Today we're going to be talking about Darius. Darius is an extremely powerful melee bruiser who is almost always played in the top lane. Darius excels at dealing extremely high damage, for all of his abilities are offensive moves, so he will typically build into mostly a defensive build with armor, health, and magic resistance to keep himself alive during team fights, and also excel in 1v1 conditions. Darius is an extremely powerful duelist. He is able to 1v1 most champions in the game in most situations, and he is also a very good team fighter, for he has great AoE damage. Darius's passive is Hemorrhage. Whenever Darius damages an enemy with the axe's blade, they bleed for X amount of physical damage over 5 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. Whenever an enemy champion receives maximum hemorrhage or dies to Noxian Guillotine, which is Darius's ultimate, Darius gains Noxian Might for 5 seconds, granting 40 bonus attack damage and applying max hemorrhage to enemies on hit. Now, this bonus attack damage will alter depending on Darius's level, and you can see right now that this move is the bread and butter for Darius's ability to duel. This is 40 bonus attack damage at level 1. Every time Darius hits you with his axe blade, which is either his Q ability or auto attacking you, you'll gain a stack of this hemorrhage, which actually does a decent amount of bleed damage to you. But at 5 stacks, he gains a massive attack damage bonus for 5 whole seconds, which makes him almost unbeatable in most 1v1 situations, which is why it's very crucial for you to prevent him from ever getting up to 5 stacks, or if he does end up getting to 5 stacks, do not duel him. You have to run away and retreat. Darius's Q is Decimate. After a short delay, Darius swings his axe around himself, striking enemies in its path. Enemies hit by the axe blade take X amount of physical damage. Enemies hit by the hilt take 50% of that damage and does not apply hemorrhage. So Decimate is the only other ability that will apply hemorrhage, like his auto attacks, which will build up his stacks. Darius heals for 12% of his missing health per enemy champion hit by the blade. This gives Darius a significant amount of self-healing. The maximum he's allowed to heal is 36% of his maximum health. This is a little bit more than 1/3 of his maximum health, and this means that if he hits 3 champions, that's the most he can heal. This is also why Darius stacks a lot of health. He'll typically be sitting around 4,000 health at full build, being able to heal around 1.5k health if he manages to land 3 enemy hits with the Decimate. This is also the primary move Darius used for wave clearing. It does massive amount of AoE damage, and it is his only AoE damage he has in his entire kit. This is also really good for team fights and applying hemorrhage stacks to multiple targets. Next we have Darius's E, which is Crippling Strike. Darius's next basic attack deals X amount of physical damage and slows the target by 90% for 1 second. Crippling Strike refunds its mana cost and 50% of its cooldown if it kills the target. Now, Crippling Strike is going to enhance his next auto attack. So he's capable of auto attacking you, then immediately using Crippling Strike to refresh his auto attack, instantly applying 2 hemorrhage stacks. This move is also going to allow Darius to stick on you very effectively. Next we have Darius's E, Apprehend. This move is his utility move, but it also has quite a bit of offensive capability. Passively, Darius gains 5% armor penetration. Now this 5% will go up by 5% per rank to a maximum of 25% at max rank. Activating this move pulls in all enemies in front of Darius and slows them by 40% for 1 second. This is the only real gap closer Darius has, and it is his main way he's going to catch any target. Darius has no real mobility. He does have a decent amount of movement speed naturally, but other than that, Apprehend is the only other way he's going to be able to catch you in lane or any other target in general. And if he does manage to land this move, it is very, very difficult to get away from him, for it is going to give you a pretty decent slow, following up with a Crippling Strike, which is also going to slow you down for another 90%. Lastly, we have Darius's ultimate, which is Noxian Guillotine. leaps to a target enemy champion and strikes a lethal blow, dealing X amount of true damage. For each stack of hemorrhage on the target, Noxian's Guillotine deals an additional 20% damage. So if you have 5 stacks of hemorrhage on a target, you're going to be doing 100% additional true damage to the target. If Noxian Guillotine kills the target, it may be recasted at no cost within 20 seconds. At rank 3, Noxian Guillotine unlocks, its cooldown resets entirely on kills, and no longer has a mana cost. It is a very powerful execution move, for it does do true damage, and it allows Darius to snowball completely out of control, for he's able to recast this on any low target, picking up double kills, triple kills, and even in some cases I've seen Darius pull off pentakills with this ability. In lane, Darius is a very effective bully. With his Decimate, he is able to poke you at a decent range. Due to Darius's extra damage he gets from his passive hemorrhage at 5 stacks, it makes him almost impossible to duel for most champions. If you want to counter Darius in lane, the best thing to do is to keep out of range of his Apprehend, which is his pulling ability, and keep out of range of Decimate, which is going to make it almost impossible for him to ever actually catch you. Apprehend isn't a very far range ability, and Darius is decently susceptible to poke damage, for his Decimate does not actually give him any type of health back on regular minion hits. He has to hit champions in order to get health back. You're going to also have to watch out for jungle ganks if you are fighting against him. Even though your jungler may come in and you could 2v1 him, his Decimate is going to give him a lot more health for hitting both of you guys, and if he does have a hemorrhage stack at 5, he could reapply this dot to your jungler. Darius is quite susceptible to being poked. The biggest thing is keeping out of Apprehend's range. If you can poke Darius and stay out of his Apprehend range, he will not really be able to do anything to you, and he'll actually have to fall back, and you can actually block him from doing a lot of CSing. Early game, this is going to be very, very challenging, for Darius is going to be building defense regardless, so it's going to make your ability to actually poke him very difficult. Darius's rotation on you will typically look like this. Darius will first try to pull you in with Apprehend, then he'll do an auto attack following up with a quick crippling strike. He will then continuously auto attack or use his Decimate on you, bringing his stacks up to 5 hemorrhage. Then he's just going to continuously stick on you and use crippling strike as much as he can to keep your movement speed down until you are low enough for him to use Noxian Guillotine. Tanky champions with high sustain such as Nasus or champions with high mobility are the best champions for countering Darius. Champions with high mobility is going to be your best bet in countering Darius in lane. Ranged champion with high poke potential is a decent choice to be playing against Darius, though Darius typically builds full tanks, so the amount of poke damage you're going to do is going to be significantly reduced, and you're going to be burning a lot of mana and risking a lot of close call auto attacks in order to poke him low enough to where you can actually engage on him. I personally think mobility champions are the best way to be countering Darius, because if Darius ever manages to get 5 stacks on you with his hemorrhage, this is where his strength comes in, and being able to get away from him during these stacks is the most critical factor in being able to prevent yourself from dying to Darius. In teamfights, Darius typically isn't the frontline champion. He'll be following up the tank and trying to get in the middle of the fight. He wants to be able to apply Decimate to as many targets as he possibly can, doing AoE hemorrhage damage and AoE Q damage to most targets, and then focusing and auto-attacking the most high priority target that he can actually deal with. An ADC like Israel or a mid lane like Ahri is a little bit too hard for Darius to actually stick on and do damage to, because their mobility will prevent him from ever being able to actually stick on them. Therefore, he will typically go for more of a lightweight bruiser or another AD offensive champion that he can stick onto and apply his hemorrhage stacks on. He'll continuously apply these stacks and continuously attacking the same target while applying his Decimate to as many targets as he possibly can until he sees an opportunity to use Noxian's Guillotine, which is where he will start to execute champions. All in all, Darius is a very powerful bruiser. He's a powerful lane bully. He will almost win all early game duels if you're going to do 1v1 on him, unless if there is a very skilled ranged champion that can beat him, such as Vayne. He is incredibly powerful at lane pressure and also a very, very effective CS champion. CCing him and bypassing Darius while going for his backline is the better option, unless you have a very powerful tank peeling champion such as Kindred or Vayne on your team, which will allow you to shred through Darius's defenses and kill him rather quickly. The only time you should ever engage on Darius in lane is if you feel confident that you can burst him down. You cannot fight Darius for a long time. His 5-stack hemorrhage is his biggest threat Other than that, you don't need to worry about too much damage coming from him through his rotations and prior to getting 5 Hemorrhage stack. This makes him vulnerable to champions that could deal a large amount of damage in a very short period of time. That's it for my champion dissection episode, guys. I hope you learned a lot about Darius. I hope you got a lot of information on how you can counter Darius. If you did like the video, be sure to go ahead and give me a thumbs up. And if you do want to see more League of Legends or World of Warcraft content, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll catch you on the Rift.